It's a 2000 Camry and it has a noisy water pump. This is the water pump right here. And we'll start it up in a moment, and the noise will be really obvious. If you're not sure where the noise is coming from, take a long screwdriver and just put it right on there and listen, and it'll be really obvious. This is the new water pump. It says Ascend on it. I'm of the opinion this is the right brand to put on here. I'm not sure about the other brands. While I'm there, that is in the timing belt area, I'm going to replace these two parts. This is the oil pump housing seal, and this is the oil pump shaft seal, because that oil pump is a common major oil leak, and I want to make sure that while I'm there, I put these two seals to protect from the leak in the future. First, I'm going to take off the left front wheel. Before I jack it up, I set the parking brake very firmly. Next, I'm going to remove the negative terminal on the battery, since we're going to be taking off the alternator soon. This is a ground. Just lift up on that tab. 14mm socket. These bolts are not the same length. So put that one in the back. $14mm socket. No, neither one of my socket wrenches fit this, so I'm not sure why. Maybe it's an 11. I don't know. I have a 10 and a 12. Anyway, that worked. Right. 12mm socket here. Just loosening it. I'm backing off the tensioner. 14mm wrench. Now the belt. Now the alternator, let's get that out of the way. Some washers here, don't lose those. won't lose it if it's there. And then this one, 14 millimeter, and then under here, 2. $10 millimeter. One short one right here. I can see this, the camshaft seal right there, and it looks pretty clean. There's a little oil down in here which is coming from somewhere else, but it's not coming from here. This is all clean. So I'm going to leave this camshaft seal since this clearance is really tough. Getting that seal out is hard. It's best to do with a special tool, so I'm not going to mess with that seal. 10 millimeter wrench. Getting under the car here. I won't lose the screws if I leave them in there. This is a 19 millimeter socket. I'm going to turn the engine clockwise. It says 0 right here. I'm going to turn until it lines up clockwise. There's the mark. Okay, and now checking up here to make sure this hole is pointing up, and this looks good. Now I'm going to take the bolt off of the harmonic balancer. Be a lot easier with an impact wrench, but I'm going to try it this way. Okay, so that bolt was so tight, what I had to do was put this on here and then reattach the battery cable and bump the ignition to break it loose. It worked. It's a little bit of a backwoods technology, but it worked. If you try that, just make sure that you have this loose wire nowhere near any metal, because when you put the battery back on, this is hot. Just fine-tuning my line here. Make it perfect. Now that I've been messing with the harmonic balancer. Okay. Again, this hole still lines up over here. So now I can take the harmonic balancer off. Take the harmonic balancer pulley off. I have to take this belt off, which just means loosening the adjustment screw and the pivot screw. Okay, so I loosened that one. Now the pivot, it's hard to see, but it's a 12 millimeter. I'm just going to loosen it with a wrench a little bit so we can move this. Okay, now the belt can come off. Now, hopefully this would just pull right off. I'm wiggling it back and forth. It's loose. On the Camry, they usually are loose. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I'm taking off these small bolts for the plastic cover. Three short screws. 1, 2, 3, and the long one goes right here. The wire catches this clip, so you have to unclip the wire. I'm going to take this idler adjustment pulley off to loosen the belt and take it apart. Pretty loose already. Maybe I might even be able to take it off without doing that. Look at that, there we go. Okay, there goes the belt. This is the oil pump. I'm taking that off next to put new seals on it. And looks like I'll take this idler out and then just a few small bolts, and this will come off and we can reseal it. This comes, replacement for this comes in the kit, so I'm just going to replace this with a new one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 millimeter bolts, it looks like. I'm very gently prying on this. To get it off. Extreme caution. Okay, there's the seal. Take that out now. Remove the seal. Just pop the seal out. And now put the new one in. Okay, this should just drop right in here. Okay, now a little oil around the inside. Alright. Put it back in. Okay. The pulley, the nut, snug. That's good. Okay. This should last the life of the car. Putting in the new gasket, there's a groove, it sits right in the groove. It's an O-ring style gasket made just for this shape. This O-ring needs to sit in that groove. If it falls out, when you tighten it, it won't seal properly and it'll leak, so be careful. Just evenly snug these, not too tight, in a crisscross pattern. Next, I need to drain the water out of, or the coolant out of the radiator, because I'm going to change the water pump. It's on the bottom of the radiator. It's got a wing on it on each side, and it's easy to find. There's a hole, the water through a pan, on the bottom it drips through the hole. While we're waiting for the radiator drain, we'll take off this adjustable idle bearing here. 14 millimeter bolt. The radiator is finished draining, so I'm going to tighten the petcock on the bottom and then move the drain pan under the front of the engine, because when I remove the water pump, some more coolant's going to come out. Now I'll take off the thermostat. It's 2 10 millimeter nuts. Okay, there's the thermostat. Now 2 bolts that hold these pipes on. Next, this bracket needs to come off. 12 millimeter bolt. Okay, just lay it aside there. Now we can take all the bolts off the water pump. This is the new water pump, and you can see all the bolt locations. Off now. Okay. So it looks like the new one only came as a half a water pump, so I'm going to have to split this apart and put this on there. Okay. The new gasket. Okay, so okay. So when you tighten these, just like the bolts for the oil pump, you have to go very gently, and once there's any pressure, just go a little bit more. Extremely careful not to over tighten these. 2 bolts for these pipes. Okay, new seal for the thermostat. First the new lower bearing. Now the new adjustable bearing. There's a hole right here. It lines up with that pin. And once I snug this up a little bit, what I'll do is I'll push it down and load it against the spring to give me plenty of slack so I can put the belt on. And just push it down and tighten the bolt. That will hold it down so you can get the belt on. Okay, now the new belt. Okay, so now I just loosen this enough so that the tensioner can operate based on the spring. Put the lower cover on. Okay, now the harmonic balancer. Okay, you crank this to 80 foot-pounds. After torquing the pulley, I crank the engine over 2 times with this wrench on the pulley, clockwise. Line the pulley back up at top dead center and check the alignment of the hole right here with the notch. Somebody's also put a mark on here before, which was helpful. And everything still lines up perfectly. This tensioner with this tight in the #1 position and going around twice, loosen it and tighten it, 31 foot-pounds, and it should be good. Power steering belt. Okay, I'm just applying slight pressure with the pry bar and tightening up the adjustment screw for the power power steering pump. I'm finished under the car now, and it's almost dark. So I'm going to put this wheel back on and lower the car and work with a flashlight from the top. Now the top cover. Now this bracket. Now this bracket. And the ground wire. Now the alternator bracket. Now the alternator. Okay. Now the alternator bracket. Lined up, I can tighten up the bolt at the bottom of the bracket. Okay, now the alternator belt. Okay, now it needs to be adjusted. Just tighten this up till the belt is snug. Okay, this belt needs to be snug, not too tight. And then tighten up the two bolts that hold it in place. Okay, it's finished. Filled it with coolant and put the battery cable back on. Drove it home last night. And so let's see how it does on a cold start.